Scientists can't explain it. Not fully. A man presses his back flat against a wall, knees at 90 degrees, feet planted. He holds that position for 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes, his lymphatic system flushes, his growth hormone triples, his blood pressure drops more than it would after a 3-mile run. This is not exercise. This is not rehabilitation. This is not a fitness trend. Ancient cultures encoded this posture into their medical traditions thousands of years before the word cardiology existed. They understood something about the human body that modern medicine is only now beginning to quantify. What they called the fierce seat, science now calls the most effective blood pressure intervention ever measured. This is only the first layer. After the age of 45, the body begins a slow biological renegotiation. Growth hormone, the repair signal, drops 14% every decade. By 55, most men are operating at roughly half the GH output of their 30s. The body's capacity to rebuild tissue, oxidize stored fat, and consolidate deep sleep diminishes with it. The lymphatic system, which has no pump of its own, depends entirely on muscular movement to circulate. A sedentary man in his 50s may be moving his lymph fluid at a fraction of its optimal rate. Immune surveillance slows. Cellular waste accumulates. Inflammation becomes chronic rather than acute. The quadriceps, the largest muscle group in the body, begin to atrophy. Research now identifies quadriceps strength as the single strongest physical predictor of all-cause mortality in men over 45. Men in the lowest strength quartile carry a 30 to 40% higher risk of death within a decade. Not from muscular causes, from everything. Cardiovascular disease, metabolic collapse, falls, organ failure. The body's largest engine is going quiet, and most men are being told to walk more. Walking helps, running helps, cycling helps. But in 2023, a team of researchers at Canterbury Christ Church University ran the most comprehensive meta-analysis of exercise and blood pressure ever assembled. And they found something that stopped the field. There was one modality that outperformed them all. It had no moving parts. The ancients called it Utkatasana, the fierce seat, the dangerous chair, a posture of absolute stillness under absolute internal pressure. The ancient mechanism revealed. Utkatasana translates from Sanskrit as fierce or dangerous, not because the posture is violent, but because the forces it generates within the body are immense. Ancient yogic lineages did not use this posture for flexibility or strength. They used it as an internal cleansing practice. Specifically, they associated it with the activation of apana vayu, the downward moving force, the purifying wind. Vedic medical texts describe apana vayu as the energy responsible for expelling waste from the lower body. Modern anatomy offers a precise translation. The quadriceps, hamstrings, and gluteal complex house approximately 40% of the body's lymph nodes. When these muscles are placed under sustained isometric compression, they create a mechanical pressure wave through the surrounding lymphatic tissue. When the muscle releases, even microscopically as it fatigues, lymphatic fluid surges forward through the vessels. This is a pump, not metaphorical, mechanical. The body's own architecture activated by stillness. Shaolin monks used the same posture, the horse stance, not as a strength exercise but as a practice of internal repair. They described it as building the foundation of the internal organs. The biology beneath that description is now legible. Isometric compression of the lower body creates the largest lymphatic flush achievable without sustained aerobic effort. The second mechanism is anabolic. When the largest muscle group in the human body is placed under sustained tension, the hypothalamus receives a load signal and triggers growth hormone release. Research documents this surge at 3 to 4 times resting GH levels, comparable to the post-exercise spike from high-intensity interval training, but generated through stillness, not movement. The ancient practitioners understood that the posture created internal fire, tejas. The biology. Mitochondrial biogenesis begins when both type 1 and type 2 muscle fibers are recruited simultaneously. The wall sit is one of the few exercises capable of that dual activation. Mitochondrial density increases. Cellular energy output rises. Ancient and modern are not in conflict here. They are the same observation, separated by vocabulary.
The evidence.
In 2023, the British Journal of Sports Medicine published a meta-analysis conducted by researchers at Canterbury Christ Church University. The study compared the blood pressure reduction effects of 5 exercise modalities: running, cycling, walking, dynamic resistance training, and isometric exercise, specifically wall sits. The finding had not appeared in the literature before. Wall sits outperformed running. Wall sits outperformed cycling. Wall sits outperformed walking. For both systolic and diastolic blood pressure reduction, isometric holds, particularly the wall sit, produced the greatest measurable effect of any exercise form studied. This is not a marginal difference. A reduction of approximately 8 millimeters of mercury in systolic blood pressure is associated with a 22% reduction in cardiovascular mortality risk. The intervention producing that reduction requires no equipment, no elevated heart rate, no impact on joints. It requires a wall in 2 minutes. Layer this against the quadriceps mortality data. Peer-reviewed longevity research has identified quadriceps strength as the strongest single physical predictor of all-cause mortality in men over 45. Stronger than VO2 max, stronger than grip strength, stronger than resting heart rate. Men in the lowest quartile of quad strength carry a 30 to 40% higher risk of death within 10 years. The wall sit is the most direct, joint-safe, scalable method of preserving and building that strength after 45. The cognitive dimension. Sustained large muscle isometric loading elevates brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, the protein that drives hippocampal neurogenesis. Elevated BDNF correlates with a 35 to 40% reduction in age-related cognitive decline risk. The same 2-minute posture that drops blood pressure is feeding the brain's repair system. This is not exercise. This is longevity medicine, and it requires no prescription.
The protocol plus day-by-day timeline.
The technique is this. Find a flat wall. Place your back flush against it. Lumbar spine in contact, not arched. Walk your feet forward until your knees are at 90 degrees, thighs parallel to the floor. Feet flat, hip-width apart. Breathe through the nose only. Slow, nasal breath, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. Hold for 2 minutes. That is the complete protocol. 2 minutes, not an hour, not a gym. 2 minutes against a wall. Here is what happens inside the body when this is practiced daily. Days 1 through 7. The quadriceps and glutes are placed under unfamiliar isometric load. Micro tears occur. Satellite cells activate. The lymphatic beds in the lower body begin clearing accumulated protein waste from interstitial fluid, the first flush. Mild soreness is this clearing process made physical. Week 2. Mitochondrial biogenesis signals are detectable. Type 1 and type 2 fiber recruitment patterns stabilize. The body's cardiovascular system begins adapting. Peripheral vascular resistance begins to decrease, the first measurable blood pressure shift. Week 3. Growth hormone output post-hold increases as the nervous system becomes more efficient at triggering the hypothalamic load signal. Sleep quality frequently improves during this week. GH is predominantly secreted during slow-wave sleep, and elevated baseline signaling amplifies that nocturnal repair window. Week 4. BDNF levels are measurably elevated. Users report improved working memory and faster cognitive processing. This is the neurotrophic cascade becoming systematic rather than acute. Day 30. The body that began this practice has more mitochondrial density, lower resting blood pressure, a cleaner lymphatic throughput, and a measurably stronger quadriceps complex. The single largest predictor of mortality in men over 45 has shifted in the right direction.
There is a wall near you right now. Monks in the Shaolin tradition held this posture not to demonstrate strength, but to activate what they called the internal foundation, the biological infrastructure beneath performance. Vedic practitioners used it to move apanavayu, to initiate downward purification when the body accumulated what could not be burned through breath alone. They were describing a lymphatic pump, a growth hormone trigger, a blood pressure intervention that would not be formally measured for another 3,000 years. The posture has always been there. The evidence is now there with it. 2 minutes, back flat, knees at 90, nasal breath, daily. That is the active pump. Compression-fed, done while awake, initiated by will. If you want the companion practice, the passive ancient pose that completes what this stance begins, the one that works while you sleep, it is the next video. Watch it now.